Good morning, good afternoon, good night. It's Myrna Loy again of Blackbright News with another controversial subject. And we're talking about the American flag, we're talking about the Constitution, we're talking about whether or not Colin Kaepernick breached the Constitution, we're talking about whether Nike should back Colin Kaepernick, and what all this means in our society today. Okay, first, what does the flag represent, the American flag? It represents unity, it represents fairness, it represents equality for all, not some, for all Americans. Now, what is the flag code? I'm not going to go through all of them, I'm just going to go through the ones that relate to Colin Kaepernick. I'm going to call him CK for shortening. The flag code, you have to respect the flag. And when they talk about respecting the flag, they're not talking about whether or not you stand or sit down. What they're talking about is how the flag is treated. It needs to be waved, it needs to be hung a certain way. It mustn't touch the floor. It mustn't get dirty. It shouldn't be torn. Those kind of things. And did you know that there's no penalty for breaching the flag code? No, there's not. So, if you're thinking about the Constitution, the First Amendment, which says that freedom of speech, and you are permitted to have a silent protest, gather together, about, to raise awareness about a social injustice, that does permit you to do that in the First Amendment. So why is Colin Kaepernick getting such a bollocking? So people say he's being unpatriotic, he's disrespecting the flag, he's denouncing veterans and all of that. They're not thinking about the reason why he knelt down, which was, to draw attention to police brutality and bias. Nobody's talking about that. They're just talking about him kneeling down and, he's a washed out footballer, shouldn't be getting so many millions. But do you realise that football, the NFL, was worth 13.8 billion? So a couple of millions to Colin Kaepernick, what's that? It's nothing. And the thing is, people only pay out what they know they're going to get. And if they're paying out millions, they're getting billions. So don't take it out of context that these people, millions sound a lot to us. Like me, I'm only getting a few shekels a month. So millions seems like a hell of a lot of money. But when you take it out of context, that is when it seems as though everything is unfair. So we need to put these things into context and understand what is going on here. Number one, we have to remember that, as far as I'm concerned, if such a furor is being made about Colin Kaepernick's gesture to kneel instead of standing up and putting his hand on his chest like it's normal for the anthem, because that's how you pledge allegiance, then that means that it's a kind of a contradiction, isn't it, really? Because on the one hand, you have freedom of speech and you have the right to protest peacefully. But on the other hand, you are meant to conform and not resist the status quo. And if you do protest, regardless, if you protest, people are going to get defensive because it's seen as a criticism against the status quo. So when people either put up their fist or they kneel or they wear t-shirts, I can't breathe t-shirts, or they do the Million Man March, or like Muhammad Ali, he resisted going into the army because it was against his religion. When people protest like that, there are going to be people who don't like it. But even Martin Luther King, he wanted the Constitution to be upheld. He wanted equality and fairness for all, and he knew it wasn't happening. So similarly, Colin Kaepernick is doing the same thing. He just wants what the flag represents, which is equality for all. That's all he's saying. And what he's saying is if the flag isn't doing what it says, and if the Constitution isn't doing what it says, it's a bit hypocritical to then stand up and pay allegiance to it. Yeah, I'm going to get a bollocking, I'm going to get name called and all sorts. But I'm trying to put it into perspective so that people can understand, you know, both sides of the coin. So he didn't make I think regardless of what I say, there's going to be an uproar about this, because there already is. You've got so many people with so many different point of views. Now they're denigrating him, they're discrediting him, and now they're boycotting Nike. I mean, Nike's lost ratings apparently. I don't know how much. I mean, they're going to say that anyway. I saw some people burning some old Nike shoes. Trainers, they weren't even new trainers. If you saw those trainers that they were burning, they're like well played out trainers. But when you think that blacks are the largest consumers, I can understand why Nike, and especially the NFL, is predominantly black. So, you know, yes, they're going to lose money. Yes, they're going to fall from the stock exchange. But I think it's important, and I think it's quite admirable that they have stood behind the cause. They are leading the resistance, Nike, and it will go down in history the same way Colin Kaepernick will. People don't like it now, but over time, this is the short term, this is now, over time, if it facilitates change, and if it creates a more peaceful world, and if we can stop fighting each other, criticize each other, slagging each other off, and just try to see both sides of the story. It is difficult to empathize with a race or a situation you've never been in. For example, I can't identify with the Jews. I can't identify with the survivors of the Holocaust. I can't identify with people who are disabled in some form or another. I can look at them and think, oh, you know, it must be really, really difficult. But it's hard for me to put myself in their shoes. The same way it's hard for white people, it's impossible for white people to put themselves in black people's shoes, especially when they're not experiencing the same degree of treatment, of mistreatment or maltreatment. And I was reading about that woman that the police bursted into her house and shot her 5 times in the torso. I mean, what's that about? This was a white woman, mind you. Apparently, I hope they really checked this story. Apparently, she called 911, said there was an intruder in the house, brandishing a knife. So the police burst in and shot her because they thought she was the intruder. I mean, even if she was the intruder, you've got 3 policemen. You've got 1 woman with a knife. Why would you consider shooting her in the torso? Why wouldn't you aim for her feet or her legs or something? Why would you shoot to kill? And then they're saying we mustn't call these policemen trigger happy. I mean, please, the woman was drunk. And you have to, I mean, in order for her to stab you, you'd have to get in close proximity. So to me, that's excessive, you know, combating a knife with a gun. It's not reasonable. And it's unfair. And this is all a part of what is going on about police brutality. Police need training. I mean, Kaepernick did say they only need 6 months to become a police officer, whereas a cosmetologist needs over a year, or a couple of years probably. Most people who are trained to serve the law like lawyers, they do years. So how is it, you know, the police, they don't even need qualifications as far as I know, as long as they can read and write and do a little test. can be put in a uniform and have a gun, and they're not trained on mental conditions. They're not trained to be emotionally intelligent. They're not trained to gauge a situation. They're just trained to react. And these people are loose on the streets. So I can see the concern of millions of people when people are getting shot left, right and centre. And we only hear the half of it. And I don't even know if we're going to hear too much about this woman. I guess because she's white, hopefully her husband will look into it big time and see what's happening and to see how the hell that could have happened. I sure hope so, because sometimes it takes a white person to give us a voice, an overall voice, because nobody's listening to us. You know, as long as you're black, you don't have a voice. Or if you have a voice, if you dare speak your mind, you get slated. So, you know, it makes me think that, you know, blacks are okay, providing they don't open up their mouth. If they're getting paid, they take the money and they keep their mouth shut, keep quiet, go about your business. We don't want you to say anything. That is what it is. That is the fact of the matter. We mustn't say anything. Just keep quiet. Keep low. Stay out of our way. Do what you got to do. Do what you're paid to do and move on. You're paid to kick a ball and piss off. Serena Williams, you're paid to bat a ball, bat it and pee off. Do your job and pee off. That's what it's about. And it's a shame because we have so much to offer each other, so much experiences. And I know from, you know, my work colleagues how we benefit from our exchanges. So I don't understand why there are so many people hell-bent on not wanting to see change and who are stuck in their old-fashioned ways and want things to be all white. It's too late. And no point, like one guy said, go back to where you came from. Because like I keep saying, you took us from where we came from and brought us here. And we've got nowhere to go back to. Set us up with nice homes, you know, a bit of money. We'd be glad to go back. Well, some of us would anyway. I know I'd love the hot sun, and I know I'd like to be able to have access to fruits and stuff. And as long as I can pay my way, I'm fine. So I ain't asking for much. But, you know, people don't like change. Nobody likes change. Whether it's change, whether it's seeing more black people around, whether it's seeing more Asian, whether it's seeing more Eastern European, whether it's seeing too much Chinese, whatever it is. People don't like it. They want things to stay the way they are. But I tell you something, for those people, there are ways to stop seeing us though. You just switch off the TV, you go to your rich neighbourhoods and you turn out the light. And then you won't see any of us. But the thing is that we are your entertainment. And that's just it. And you pay a lot of money to be entertained, because outside of entertainment, what is there? What is there? I mean, it's no different from, you know, how in Egyptian days when they used to watch the lions maul the people. You know, that was their entertainment. So we haven't moved that far on. You know, a lot of people are afield. People love to watch them. They pay money to watch them. The industry gets richer and richer and richer. And so they're boycotting Nike. But I don't think it'll make that much difference. I think maybe in the short term, they're going to take a blow. But I think in the long term, you know, when we think about all the people who've protested in the past, from Mahatma Gandhi to everybody else, they did make a change and they were accepted in history. Historically, they have been accepted and they have been acknowledged for the change they make. So let's hope that Colin Kaepernick is added to that list of heroes. And that's all for now. Bye-bye.